The topic of today's video is probably one of the most important personal discoveries that I have made in the past 2-3 years, I would say. Especially the past 2 years though. Starting with 2021 is when I properly, I would say, started actually understanding the things that I am about to tell you. And if I'm honest, I'm probably making this video just as much for myself right now in the current situation that I'm in as I am for you guys. So, you know what? Let's discuss the subject title, which you can read below. Oh, and while you're reading it, you might as well subscribe and like the video. I know the video hasn't even started yet, but it would mean a lot to me if you liked it, if, for example, you like my sweater, or you can finish watching the video and I will remind you again to like and subscribe, because then you will actually have reasons to like and subscribe, but just please do not forget, but I will remind you. But anyway, I'm going through some things on a personal life level, and although I consistently practice reminding myself of all of the things that, once again, I'm about to tell you, sometimes, the best way to learn and to properly understand something is to teach someone else, which is partially why I even made this channel in the first place, so that I can learn the things that I'm learning even in more depth through teaching them to someone. So yeah, let's try to integrate this wisdom that I'm about to bestow upon you through me bestowing it upon you, and then you going and bestowing that wisdom upon somebody else once you have actually somewhat understood it and started to implement it in your daily life. So, hello there, my darling humanoids, androids, reptiloids, asteroids, or whatever way you like to identify yourself. It's me, Maria. Not Mario. Different people. Try to remember next time, okay? It's fine, I forgive you for making the mistake for now, but next time it's Maria, not Mario. I know I say it like it's the Mia Mario, but it's a Maria. Okay? Just saying. And welcome to the still Neil Hub, although I think I'm going to be rebranding the whole endeavor because the name is kind of difficult to pronounce and it's just not good branding. And as somebody who works with branding other people's products, it is really not wise of me to have a really bad brand myself while working in branding. So anyway, for now, we're still Neil Hub. So welcome. And on today's agenda, as usual, if you are already a subscriber, if you have seen my other videos, I will first talk about the topic in general. I will try to break it down in more detail, go into some elaborate explorations and explanations of it, and then just take all of that blah, 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 and summarize it and ground it into simple terms in reality, and finish the video with how you can practically apply it, and most likely end the whole video as usual on just kind of live your life and like try to enjoy yourself and like don't overthink things. But if you're watching this video, chances are you're really, really overthinking things. And so let me spiral for a bit with you. Let me take you down the spiral with me, actually. Let's just all spiral for a bit. And then after spiraling, just ground the spiral and peace out. Okay? Okay, cool. So, the keys to controlling your reality. Ooh, what a big topic. First of all, okay, obviously, there are many schools of thought. So let's begin with the fact that, obviously, all of life, everything that you go through on a daily basis, everything that you can think of from your past, anything that you can imagine in your future, it is all just your perception. And as I just mentioned, there are plenty of schools of thought that focus on this precise subject of human perception, of life, of the universe, of interactions with others, of interactions with the world, what even is the world, what even is life, and so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, all we can say is that we are these beings that feel like we exist and are capable of perceiving other things as existing as well, and capable of perceiving us going through particular experiences while interacting with those things around us. So first of all, let's indeed outline what is reality. Let's start big, okay? So that we can just launch right into the spiral. So there's first of all the very obvious materialistic approach to what is reality that is generally pursued by science, where they use the empirical method of exploration, of measurement, to grasp reality as a physical substance that can be defined within certain parameters and can be empirically measured. However, obviously, as you probably know, modern science has now reached such a level of expansion that even scientists realize that nothing is definite, nothing is actually truly measurable, nothing is actually truly physical, because nowadays everybody pretty much knows and somewhat understands the concept of quantum fields, the quarks, and all of those beyond microelements, so not even nano elements, well, quantum elements, which are not even technically elements because they're more like waves, but then they're not really waves. That's the whole thing. But anyway, so even science that has initially been oriented at perceiving reality as something physical and material has now reached a level where it understands that nothing is physical or material and everything is relative, and basically nothing is real and everything is just perception. Okay, so that's the first school of thought. Then we have the other lens of approaching the subject, which is the spiritual lens, where there are different spiritual, philosophical schools, religious schools that talk about reality as something in the imagination of God, as something in the perception of this either external element, external thing, external, not person, but entity that is perceiving things going on, which is sometimes described as this entity or multiplicity of entities creating the physical world. But at the end of the day, if you don't take the religious text literally, can be also explored and interpreted under the lens of the God creating things in the sense of imagining them. So, although the religious viewpoint, well, if we take the systemic religious viewpoint is that there is a God or multiple gods that have created this physical reality. It is also generally accepted that because it is the God that created the reality itself is also basically non real. And the only thing that is real is that God or multiple gods or entities that have created what we perceive as physical material reality. So, in religious and spiritual lines of thought, we essentially come to the idea that reality is also not reality, it is also non material, and the only thing that we can grasp is our own perception of what is happening around us. And essentially, it all comes down, all of spirituality comes down to just like be grateful that you feel yourself as an existing entity, that you can perceive things and can interact with other things. So be grateful, be nice to other things that you can perceive, and keep perceiving and keep exploring, right? But at the end of the day, reality also not real. Not in science, neither in religion. And as the sort of parent of both fields, we have in the middle philosophy, where many philosophers across many centuries have been deliberating and debating about the nature of reality, what reality is, once again, as I have already stated. And essentially, all of philosophy, at least starting with the 20th century philosophy, actually, even 19th, actually, it has been a theme in philosophy for a really, really long time, because the 20th century, I feel like, at least from what I have studied, has really cemented the idea that reality also not real. According to philosophy, all we have is, once again, our perception of it as something of substance, of something of importance, of something of meaning. And essentially, most philosophy comes down to reality is what you make of it, reality is what you perceive it to be, and reality has and takes on the meaning that you prescribe to it. And so the fact that the three mentioned above fields have finally come to a united somewhat consensus in the modern day is why I feel like psychology in our modern world is as relevant as ever and is gaining incredible popularity. So I'm not even going to mention therapy gaining a lot of popularity just due to general life events and life being stressful and people trying to deal with it in whatever ways they can. But on top of that, because once again, all of science, religion, or spirituality and philosophy have now essentially come to a conclusion that life is just what we perceive it to be, is why psychology is as relevant as ever. So this essentially the whole point of this video. Like, you might as well just stop watching it after this. Please don't, but like, you can if you want to, because it's really as simple as the biggest key to controlling your reality is understanding, studying, and aligning with your psychology. Doing all of the alchemical therapeutic practices that you need to do, that you can find, that you can discover, that you feel are relevant to your situation, doing them, practicing spiritual things, studying philosophy, studying science, in order to understand that pretty much everything that you go through is always just in your mind. It is always just the way that you perceive things, and then going back to just participating in therapeutic practices and studying more of your own psyche. Because if we now get away from the topic of general reality and what are things, what is physicality, what is this, what is that, what is there, what is breathing, what is this body, if we get away from all of those distractions, what you came to this video for, right, is probably to improve your life, to improve your quality of life, to improve your relationships, to improve your work, to improve your productivity, to improve how you feel about yourself, how you feel about others, how you interact with other beings, how you feel about your environment, your living situation, and so on and so forth, right? So the biggest and main key that I have at least extracted thus far from absolutely everything that I have been learning for more than 10 years now, actually for essentially my whole life, but on purpose, actually studying it for 10 years, is that you choose how you feel and how you perceive the things happening around you and inside of you. That is basically it. You are capable of choosing, of having executive control of your feelings, of your perceptions. You're capable of not just reacting to life and always living in following your initial impulses, but actually going through with processing why those impulses arise in the way that they arise, and instead of expressing them as destructive behavior or destructive emotions, once again, processing them, analyzing them, in order to then express them in a more productive, helpful, or healing, or just generally relaxed way. And although I have just spoken in a situational context where we're talking about the way that you react and respond to situations that are taking place right now or have taken place in the past in your life, this also applies to the whole grand scale of your life and the way that you perceive your quality of being, your quality of living. And in essence comes down to getting out of this victim mentality that you have most likely heard of many, many times, but maybe haven't integrated yet as an idea, as a concept to get away from it, or maybe like you just don't know how to actually get away from the victim mentality. But yeah, it's all about getting out of the victim mentality and getting into the creator of your own reality mentality. Because do you want to know one of the main reasons why you might, I'm just throwing out an assumption here, why you might be thinking that your situation is quote unquote bad, or the quality of your life is shite, or something of the sorts? Do you know why? It is because you're comparing yourself to somebody else's quality of life. And because in the modern day we have so much social media, media in general, and not just in the modern day, we always pretty much had media of some sorts, but just because it's digital media now and it is worldwide, we have an abundance of all of these things, people, news outlets, media sources that are constantly showing you all of the different ways that your life could have been different if you were just not yourself, but were instead this other person. Or if instead of doing the things that you do, you like did this other thing, like started investing in crypto or something, like, something ridiculous. Like, essentially, media profits from making you feel like shite. So because media profits from making you feel like shite, making you question your beliefs, making you question who you are, and that's actually what I'm doing right now as well, because guess what? I am also a part of this whole media. But you know what? At least I'm trying to do it so that it is actually for your benefit and doesn't just make you feel like shit. But if anything, I'm actually trying to make you feel better. Anyway, because media thrives on consumption, it is beneficial to media to make you feel like shit, because then that means that you will want to consume more and more media in order to either try to understand how to get out or feeling like shite, or just because you're now stuck in this addictive self-perpetual vehicle of looking at all the ways that your life could have been different, or exploring all of the ways that other people are different from you, which then, because of marketing telling you that, oh yeah, look how cool this person's life is and blah 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 blah, and you're not this guy, so you're not as cool as this guy is rich and has cars and blah 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 blah, he's awesome, you're not, you should want to be like him. Because of media doing that all the time, and not just in the context of comparing you to another person, but just in general, just, constantly showing you these aspirational things that could be yours, you end up essentially stuck in a constant cycle of increasing desire and sense of lack, instead of staying present and staying focused on what it is you have, and being obsessed with your own self, with your own journey, with the way that you develop yourself, and desiring purely the unveiling of your own true, authentic potential. People end up stuck in desiring things that are not even necessarily relevant to them or their life, and that do not really benefit their life in any way, shape, or form. And so, what is the best way to get out of this toxic cycle? Once again, it is changing your perception. How to get out of the victim mentality into the creator of your own life mentality? Change your perception of your living circumstances, of your situation, of your internal self, of your external self, of other people, of your interactions with people, of the whole world. And through changing your perception, you will control your reality. Easy as that. So let's ground this down now on a practical level. What am I actually talking about in a real sense, right? So let's take an imaginary scenario of a teenager who lives somewhere in the UK in the middle class, right? Or even in a working class family. Because ironically, from my observations, those are some of the most self-victimizing people on this planet. If anything, teenagers that live in places like the favelas in Latin America or in villages in Russia, who have a billion times more difficult life experiences than kids in the UK, somehow the kids in the UK complain the most and are the least grateful for their quality of life, at least from what I have experienced and observed. And so the purpose of this imaginary scenario is not to undermine the misfortune of this imaginary teen or kid, but instead to demonstrate to you how that teen or kid could empower themselves through changing their perception. So let's say there is this child in the UK who is complaining about how difficult their life is because, let's say, their parents got divorced, their car is only like, I don't know, a Fiat, and they are once again only working class in the UK, right? So, from the teenager's perception, their life is obviously, oh, just so unbearably terrible, can even lead to depression from how terrible it is. But, let's say we take the teenager and demonstrate to them how they can change their perception. So first of all, let's start with the fact that they live in the UK. They don't live in Latin America, once again. They don't live in Russia. They don't live in China. They don't live somewhere like in Nigeria. They don't live in Vietnam. They live in the UK, one of the most developed and one of the richest countries in the whole wide world. So yeah, the teenager may complain that, oh, they have so many limitations to their opportunities in life because they're only working class. But the thing is, they're in the UK. Working class in the UK. Back home in my country, in Russia, that is like upper middle class at the very least. At the very least. And that is in the cities. If you go to a village in Russia with the money that a working class family gets in the UK, you would be almost like a millionaire there. Actually, no, you literally would be a millionaire in Russia. And so, as much as I'm oversimplifying this whole situation and this whole context, the general the general complaint of people who live in first world countries and complain about their quality of life not being very high because they're middle class or below can essentially be solved with just moving and going to a different country. And not like that is actually something that is very, very difficult because, once again, living in the UK right now, I know so many people who do exactly that. People from England who go to live in Vietnam, in Thailand, in all of those places, and live amazing lives there. Even if here they were almost homeless, they go to places like Thailand and Vietnam and actually live like a really, really good life. Have a house, have a wife, maybe like have a car, have a motorcycle, and are actually thriving just because they realized that their perception of their quality of life was dictated by them comparing their life to people who are richer than them in the first world country, instead of expanding their viewpoint to a global scale where anybody, even the poorest person in that country, so the UK, is much, much richer than the majority of the whole world. So that is the first offer of a perception change, to understand how good you actually have it and how you can actually change the quality of your life through just expanding the lens through which you view your situation and your reality. Now, let's get back to this British kid that I decided to roast for whatever reason in this video. And another perception point that, oh no, their parents have gotten a divorce. Obviously, a very, very unfortunate situation, especially when you're a teenager or a child in the middle of a divorce. It is very, very difficult to go through. So, once again, I'm not trying to neglect the feelings and perceptions of people going through difficult situations in life. I fully believe that it is extremely important that any issue, especially something as traumatic as a divorce or situations that are worse than that, should be addressed with a therapist. Hence, at the start of the video, I said that everybody should do therapy and study their psychology and find ways to resolve their traumas and issues and uncover their true self through different psychoanalytical work. But besides the trauma that that situation would uh, elicit onto an individual, let's look at how we could change the perception of the situation to get out of the victim consciousness into the creator consciousness. For more difficult situations like this one, obviously the idea of comparison and things like that can kind of work, but that goes down the line of almost gaslighting oneself into forcing oneself to feel better. And instead, a helpful way to resolve and change one's perception of traumatic situations is to instead look at them as lessons. And so, as much as the key is still the change of perception, this could be said to be the second key to having total control of your life, and that is to look at absolutely everything as lessons and experiences that you can channel into creating a better future for yourself. So, because although yes, the divorce is a terrible situation, but on the other side, if we change our perception of it, Yes, it is traumatizing, it is sad, it is horrible, but that child now will be able to look at the patterns of their parents and what led to the divorce to take place, uh, and informed by the fact that they are that individual's parents, therefore that individual was shaped and formed and biologically inherited a lot of the traits of their parents, chances are they will reflect a lot of the traits and the patterns that their parents have reflected. And therefore, in order for that child then to have a much more stable relationship and connection than their parents did, through, once again, self-analysis, self-exploration, and self-understanding, that individual can understand how their parents' patterns reflect within them in order to prevent that same situation from occurring in their life. And if anything, it's actually quite funny because it tends to be that life of a child of divorced or like of a problematic family goes one of the two ways. They either repeat the patterns that their family has displayed, or they swing the absolute opposite direction and do everything in the exact opposite way to their family and parents and the patterns that they have noticed their parents display. However, the issue with going the absolute other direction from the patterns that are inherited in your family is that usually when it takes place in real life, it is done unconsciously. So it is done more as a reaction rather than a conscious, chosen action. And so the third key to actually controlling your reality is to, once again, as I have already kind of mentioned, instead of reacting, choose to act consciously and with self-awareness, which is once again done through self-analysis and self-assessment and being present and conscious with yourself in the moment. And instead of just reacting and acting on your initial first impulses, after having a certain desire, after feeling a certain response within yourself to a certain situation, you go within, deeply analyze and assess why you feel the way that you feel, what it could be in response to, and why you feel like responding the way that you want to respond. Process the initial emotions that actually arise within your body, because basically, a short little spiral to the side, where a lot of people make a mistake actually, is that instead of processing the emotions, they just repress them. And that leads to all sorts of health complications in the future, as well as self-sabotage, which I keep talking about a lot in my videos. But so you want to actually feel the emotion, you want to actually embrace it, you want to actually acknowledge, even tell yourself that, okay, right now I'm feeling this emotion. I acknowledge to myself that within my body I feel fear, or I feel grief, or I feel sadness. And then, in accordance to what sensation and what feelings are actually arising within you, choose some kind of a methodology, choose some kind of a therapeutic practice to process the emotion, to release it, and then act consciously through rational deliberation, and once again, doing a lot of analytical work of your situation, doing a deep assessment of what would be the best way forward. And here there's a little caveat that there's also this aspect of intuition, which is extremely important. But I'm afraid I cannot touch on the subject of intuition in this video, because that is such a big subject of inquiry, and unless you have been working on developing your intuition on purpose for quite some time, most of the time what people perceive as being their intuition is actually just, once again, their reactive responses or their impulses, which are very, very different from an intuitive sense. So for the beginner level, process the emotion first, and then rationally deliberate what is the best way forward from where you are right now. And the last and final key to controlling your reality is having a control over the story that you tell yourself about yourself and the stories that you tell others about yourself. So when you're telling somebody about who you are, about how your life has been, what you have been doing in your life, become aware of what you're actually telling people. Do you always position yourself in, once again, the role of a victim? Or if you have actually been doing this self-analysis work and attempting to perceive everything as a lesson, do you instead position yourself as a victor, as a victorious individual, as somebody who wasn't just a victim of, oh, this bad thing happened to me, and then this bad thing happened to me, and boo-hoo, poor me, but instead has gone through so many challenges and so many difficulties and has emerged and is currently present and still alive and still going and still running and still doing stuff despite all of the challenges, and has actually learned something useful and perhaps very informative and helpful to others thanks to the circumstances that they have had to overcome, thanks to the challenges that they have faced in their prior life. So yeah, the last key essentially comes down to purposefully choosing the narrative that you spin about yourself, about your life story. And this is where I would actually like to offer you a little practice. If you don't do it on a constant basis already, definitely 100%, even maybe try to do it right now. And what you want to do is grab a paper and a pen or a pencil, or just grab a notes app and actually just try to write about yourself. Imagine that you're writing an autobiography about your life, and see what would you write. How do you describe yourself and your life and your experiences right now? How much of it is negative and puts you in the position of a victim? And then think, how can you rewrite that story to instead come out as a winner? And while you're writing it, it is actually extremely helpful, because even in writing your life story, you're doing a deep self-assessment where you can actually come to a lot of realizations of why you act the way that you act, why you do the things that you do, where you're actually reacting instead of consciously responding to situations, and even extract a lot of lessons that you might not have realized before looking at your life in retrospect. And so yeah, simple as that. Essentially, once again, having total control of your reality comes down to having control of your perception, of your present, of your past, and attempting to channel it into having a more controlled future through being present and aware in your now. So the way that you control your future is essentially through taking control of your current, right now, situation, of your actions today, in the second, in this minute, as well as rewriting the narrative that you tell about your past, where you come from, who you are, and all of the sorts. So yeah, I hope this prompts you to think a bit more deeply about yourself, about the way that you perceive reality, about the way that you see the world around you, about the way that you see yourself. And I hope that this just made some sense. By the way, I'm going to mention this here. I did make a self-analysis chatbot that is totally free and is available on Telegram. I will link it down below. And what essentially this chatbot is actually probably the best I can give you in terms of guidance to how to do this self-assessment work. I created it about half a year ago in both English and Russian versions. And so it would actually be just generally helpful for my development of the projects that I'm creating if you tested it out as well. But what the chatbot essentially is a prompt-based algorithm, but where the prompts are not given to the computer, but instead the computer, well, the chatbot, gives the prompts to you. And you respond to them, and through responding to the questions posed by the chatbot, you go through a very in-depth self-analysis of your patterns, of your thinking, of your situation, and so on and so forth. So yeah, click link down below. Once again, it is free, but it is currently only available on Telegram. And I hope that this helps kickstart your journey to self-analysis. And do you remember how at the very start of the video, I said to like and subscribe? Yeah. Well, if you haven't done that back then, first of all, rude. This is a very cute sweater, and I think it actually deserved a like anyway, even before you watch the video. But now that you have watched the video or whatever as well, might as well go and like the video and subscribe. And just in general, like, it would mean a lot to me. And plus, then I can do more videos and I can see that you guys actually find something useful in it. And actually, if you found this video useful, also leave a comment. You know, maybe tell a bit of your life story if you want to. Honestly, like, if you're open to it, fully just like write a general description of yourself and of the narrative that you have about your life right now in the comment section. Like, it's a free platform. If you're open to it though. No pressure, no pressure. But if you want to, I'd be interested to see like what you guys have been up to, what the people that are watching me are going through even right now. Maybe complain about something. Honestly, just like comment. Just comment. Just do stuff. Just do stuff. Have fun. Or maybe just say hi. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm still new to this YouTube thing, although I've been doing it for like half a year as well. But I don't release nearly enough videos. But wait for my rebrand, and then there's gonna be more. And you know what? If you leave a like and subscribe, I'm actually gonna be motivated to do more videos. So if you find them useful, gonna do what you're gonna do. So yeah. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, stay happy, and do deep, in-depth self-analysis in order to become even happier and more joyful in your life. And use the Telegram chat bot and go to the website and do all of the things and click all of the links there below. And yeah. Have a good day. Have a good time. Bye-bye. Bye.